Hello and welcome to Downing Street. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is bracing for a potential leadership challenge from his Health Secretary today, whilst his former Deputy Prime Minister has cleared a major obstacle to joining any race herself. A row about Angela Rayner's tax affairs had been seen as a barrier to her standing in a leadership contest. But she now says the matter has been settled with the UK's tax authority, the HMRC. She paid about £40,000 in tax, but without having to pay a penalty. Angela Rayner made the announcement on the same day that the Health Secretary Wes Streeting is expected to resign from the government and launch a bid to oust the Prime Minister. Well, last night Sir Keir held a series of talks with Labour MPs, warning them that a leadership contest would plunge the party into chaos, a view echoed by the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who told the BBC today that any challenge would put economic stability at risk. She was reacting to the news that the UK economy grew by more than expected in the first 3 months of the year. Well, we know that the Prime Minister left Downing Street via the back entrance this morning. You can see in the top left-hand corner of these pictures his motorcade. He's now arrived at Parliament. You might also be able to just hear a bit of a marching band behind us. Splendid sound and adding to the mix here in Westminster. A lot to discuss over the coming hours. Let us start with that news that the former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner says she has been exonerated of the accusation that she had deliberately sought to avoid tax. It means that she could now enter any potential race to become the next Labour leader. In an interview with our colleagues at ITV News, Ms Rayner said there needed to be a change within government, but she refused to say whether there should be a change of leader.
What's happening in the Labour Party at the moment is we've just had a severe beating off the electorate, and our ministers, our cabinet members, our Prime Minister and our members and our voters are saying things have to change.
And some people say change the leader.
Well, some people are saying that. But what I'm saying is the delivery of what we promised the electorate is the most important thing that we need to be concentrating on at the moment.
So don't change the leader.
I'm not getting into hypotheticals about leadership at the moment.
Angela Rayner also said the Labour Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, should have been able to run for a seat in Westminster and denied doing any kind of deal with him to secure a leadership position.
Well, look, I'm not talking about leadership contenders. We've got a leader and it's hypothetical, but I do think it was a mistake to block Andy Burnham. And if Andy Burnham wants to come into Parliament, you know, he should be able to contribute to that.
You can understand, though, people are wondering, has a deal been done between you and Andy Burnham that maybe he'll be leader and you'd get a good role in his cabinet, or vice versa? You'd be leader, he could be, I don't know, Chancellor. Has a deal been done between the two of you at all?
No. I just think that we should all be working together. I think that's the important thing. I'm not doing deals or anything like that. I want us to get on with the job of actually delivering for the people.
Extraordinary timing, of course. Well, it all comes as the Health Secretary Wes Streeting is expected to launch his leadership bid to challenge Sir Keir Starmer in the coming hours. It is not yet known if Mr Streeting has the backing of at least 81 Labour MPs, which he'd need to formally trigger a ballot. The Prime Minister spent yesterday evening trying to shore up support by meeting with MPs and ministers in Parliament, and he warned them that a leadership contest would, in his words, plunge us into chaos. Our political correspondent Harry Farley reports.
It's less than 2 years since Labour won an enormous election victory. And yet, today's papers reflect a party standing on the brink of challenging its leader. Supporters of the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, believe he could trigger a contest today. To do that, he needs the backing of 81 Labour MPs. His opponents doubt whether he has that support. We'll soon find out. But Labour's disastrous election results last week and the Prime Minister's response has left Keir Starmer hanging to power by a thread, with the party split on who should lead them.
I understand why Keir Starmer now should feel that he should step aside after that defeat, after what happened in those local elections. We now need to try and settle things and move on. And he was right to set out that the public are fed up with status quo politics, but what he did was he gave a status quo speech in response to it.
What the country wants, I think, is a stable government. They don't want to have this sort of endless recycling prime ministers every 12 months because you have ups and downs. You need prime ministers that can take the long-term decisions for the good of the country and not have to worry about a few weeks of unpopularity.
I want you to know that the issue that you've raised is understood.
The Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, is not yet an MP and needs to be if he wants to run for leader. He was due on his regular Radio Manchester slot today, but last night pulled out, with a spokesperson saying he has to prioritise discussions arising from last week's local elections. Finding and winning a parliamentary seat is a major hurdle he faces. Last night, two Manchester MPs, Afzal Khan and Jeff Smith, both denied rumours they are stepping down to allow Andy Burnham to return to Westminster. If he can't do that, some Labour MPs are likely to want a candidate to take on Wes Streeting, with the former Labour leader, Ed Miliband, one name being mentioned. The Prime Minister spent last night meeting ministers in Parliament trying to shore up his support and warning a leadership challenge would plunge us into chaos. But even there, he was confronted by those who think he needs to be bolder, I'm told. It's set to be another bumpy day for Sir Keir Starmer. Harry Farley, BBC News in Westminster.
Well, joining me now in a rather windy Westminster Downing Street is our chief political correspondent, Henry Zeffman. It doesn't feel like May, does it? I should just say it's actually...
It never does in Downing Street.
Bizarre microclimate here. I just want to kick off with the person that everyone has been very focused on for today, Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, still the Health Secretary. And they have announced new figures, haven't they? Chris Mason has reported this, that Wes Streeting has shared with all Labour MPs, part of a WhatsApp group, on NHS waiting lists, which are down, saying that they are the fastest, the sort of biggest falls in waiting lists for a long time.
That's right. I mean, there's specific figures that were always going to be released today that Wes Streeting is trumpeting in this WhatsApp group with Labour MPs, talking about waiting lists being down by 110,000 in March in the NHS England. He says outside of COVID, that's the biggest monthly drop since 2008. I mean, it goes on and on and on, concluding very proud of the team effort across the department and NHS, and most importantly, the 1.5 million staff across the country. Wes, I think what matters here, Geeta, is that you can see potentially the basis of the beginning of the argument that Wes Streeting might make if, as remains the widespread assumption, he stands for the leadership today. He will say, I've made progress at the Department for Health and Social Care. I don't believe fast enough progress is emanating from that building behind us, 10 Downing Street. Move me there and I'll deliver similar results for the government as a whole. I think that's probably the argument that he will start to carve out later today.
We've also heard from Angela Rayner. Just tell us exactly what we understand her position to be now.
It's the biggest development of the day so far by some distance. Lots of people will remember that Angela Rayner resigned as Deputy Prime Minister back in September in the aftermath of the disclosure that she had wrongly underpaid stamp duty on a property that she bought in Hove on the south coast. She has now paid that stamp duty to HMRC. That's a new development. It's £40,000 that she wrongly didn't pay, and she has now paid. She says that she has not had to pay any money beyond that. There was no penalty because HMRC did not find any negligence or willful erroneous tax paying on her part. The crucial thing here is that her tax situation was the major obstacle to Labour MPs, including Labour MPs who really like her, from even considering the possibility that she might stand in a leadership contest. That obstacle is now cleared because that matter, at least as regards HMRC, is settled.
And the key thing is there going to be a formal process triggered? Does Wes Streeting have the numbers? And would Angela Rayner then launch into any kind of process that could happen?
Look, we still don't know definitively that Wes Streeting is going to initiate a leadership contest. I think the fact that he has marched so far up the hill means it's nigh on impossible to see how he can march back down again.
I mean, does the Rayner move mean that there are different calculations, that any announcement could be delayed?
I don't know. I doubt it. I think it's a good question, but I doubt it, because my hunch is that Wes Streeting will always have anticipated that should he stand against Sir Keir Starmer, somebody else would get involved from the broad left of the Labour Party, and that's where Angela Rayner emanates. It's also where Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, who, let's remember, is not an MP, comes from. So I doubt it's particularly responsible for the reason that we still haven't heard from Wes Streeting. The other thing, by the way, just to say, is that the question of whether Wes Streeting has the numbers, and the numbers being 80 fellow MPs, who, alongside Wes Streeting presumably nominating himself, would make up the 81 he requires, that's a secondary question. He can begin this leadership contest with 0 backers for all the process is, he says, I'm running for the leadership, and then the process begins where there are nomination papers put in the Parliamentary Labour Party office in the heart of Parliament, which MPs can go along and sign, and that tally would get updated every few hours or whatever it may be. So he doesn't need to say, I'm standing for the leadership because I've got 81. He can just say, I'm standing for the leadership and I urge my colleagues to back me on this basis.
And on that, if there are a whole load of factions within the Labour Party, people who might want Angela Rayner, might want Ed Miliband, might want Andy Burnham, is there a logic then in those people signing a Wes Streeting nomination paper, if he goes for it, in order to trigger it? Or are they then committed to him? Can they then switch candidates later?
They can't switch candidates unless the candidate whose nominations they've signed drops out. So, no, I don't think there is a logic from those people's point of view. There may well be a logic to people, backing other candidates in order to, not necessarily Wes Streeting, but there may well be people on the left, backing another candidate on the left in the hope that they get a fuller leadership contest and that allows Andy Burnham to come in potentially. But no, I think basically, well, actually, a lot of Labour MPs learnt their lesson in 2015. This is an important thing to say, because you'll remember in 2015, Labour MPs who didn't support Jeremy Corbyn nominated Jeremy Corbyn so that he got to the threshold, I think it was only 35 then, to broaden the debate. And then Jeremy Corbyn became leader of the Labour Party, and that was...
Ed Miliband nominated him, doesn't he? I think.
I don't think he did, actually.
Did
but,
okay.
but we can consult the history books on that before we next appear
Yes.
together on the channel.
We will check. What about Ed Miliband or any other members of the Cabinet? Have we heard from them at all?
Well, we've heard from some members of the Cabinet. This morning I heard from Rachel Reeves here in Downing Street. She came out and gave a very unusual, very strong warning for a Chancellor of the Exchequer about what a leadership contest would mean. I think we can listen to a bit of it now.
Today's numbers show that the economy is growing strongly, and because of that growth, we'll be able to do more to invest in our public services and to support families and businesses with the cost of living. But that is only possible because of the economic stability that we have brought back to our economy. And we shouldn't put that at risk by plunging the country into chaos at a time when there is conflict in the world, but also at a time when our plan to grow the economy is starting to bear fruit.
So just to be clear, your message to Wes Streeting and others potentially is that triggering a leadership contest at a time of international turmoil would plunge the UK into chaos.
Well, today there will be numbers also about the NHS performance, and because of the additional money, £29 billion a year, that I've been able to put into the health service as Chancellor, means that those waiting lists should continue to fall. But that investment in our public services, including our NHS, good jobs and growth in all parts of our country, is only possible because of the economic stability that I have returned to the economy. And if we put that at risk, we put at risk the investment in our public services and also the growth that is necessary to help people with the cost of living and help businesses with the cost of living. And next week I'll be setting out more detail on how, because of the numbers that we've seen today, we'll be able to put more money in to support people, families and businesses with the conflict challenges that we know we're facing.
Do you worry that if there is a Labour leadership contest, that puts at risk the economic policies that you've pursued over the past couple of years? Do you think the government could end up shifting to the left, for example, on tax and on spending?
Labour MPs have got an important decision to make today, but the numbers show that the economy is growing, and that when we entered this conflict, our economy was growing strongly. Because of the decisions that I have made as Chancellor, we shouldn't put that at risk.
Chancellor there speaking to Henry a short time ago, earlier this morning. Henry will be back with us shortly. We're going to take a quick break around the world and across the UK. This is BBC News.